Hi, I'm John Gerzema with the Harris Poll at Sport Beach at Stagwell, and I'm here with Nick Hammitt, the CMO of Newell Brands. How are you?
I'm doing great,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, having a great time. This is my first can, so
Is it?
I'm like a kid in a candy store, just like soaking it all in. It is on a scale that I had not appreciated.
That's
So
really interesting.
it's been good.
What's been the most interesting thing you've seen so far?
I just the entire takeover. Like I
Yeah,
couldn't have imagined like some of these, just regal hotels,
right.
with Netflix TVs on them, or gigantic banners, or I mean, there's a little bit of Vegas that's been infused
Uh-huh.
into Cannes, but it's been great.
Good. That's great. Well, let's talk a little bit about AI. We start
Yep.
there.
Sure.
So,
Perfect.
I mean, it's really interesting with Newell Brands. You've been one of the more concrete CPG companies in terms of applications towards AI. Can you talk about how that's kind of come about? And is that a function of leadership, culture, both?
Yeah, I mean, I would say all of the above. I think, for context, Newell's in the middle of a turnaround, and we are looking for any advantage that we can have. And so AI has been fantastic because there are a lot of things that we need to do better. So we're not beholden to a whole ton of inside processes and other things, and that allows us to adopt and implement AI at a pace and scale that I think others may not be able to do because it requires breaking more things. And so we've been able to lean into that space. We have leadership that is absolutely AI supportive. In fact, my boss is a AI nut, and so I actually he keeps me on my toes. I have to keep up with all of his reading because he'll find something exciting and he'll come running down to my office, and so I got to try to stay one step ahead. But that culture of embracing AI has enabled it to kind of permeate throughout the company.
That's really interesting. And if you think about that application toward, let's talk about consumer insights. We, the Harris Poll,
Yep.
do a lot of research. We're focusing now on building in synthetic into our work. And
Yep.
how are you applying AI toward consumer insights?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's from the very, basic stuff at the beginning. We've created consumer personas for every single one of our brand's targets.
Okay.
And so I kind of wish I was back to being a brand manager again, because you basically have your consumer sitting shotgun with you in your office that you're able to just talk to and converse with, and you brainstorm and bounce ideas off of. And a lot of the kind of concepting and initiation of any kind of idea starts in that environment. And then as it progresses into something bigger, we have moved into synthetic audiences, where we've been able to create audiences around not only our brand target but also some of our key customer shoppers. And so understanding how somebody is going to shop the baby aisle at Walmart or Target, that is a additional layer that's allowing us to get to a much greater level of granularity, which one allows us to see if this idea is going to not only work for us but also grow the category, which is so critical for our customers. But it makes for a much more compelling sell story when we go in and say, hey, we know this works because we've
I see.
tested it with your consumers in this environment to enable the fact that this is going to work.
I hadn't thought about that from a retail application. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
How about product development? Is that something where AI is helping you from a marketing
Absolutely.
standpoint?
Yes, absolutely. So it's basically from ideation all the way through to content development. We have AI kind of workflows built in. And so we have a tool called Inogen, which is a human AI kind of co-creation tool. And it basically brings together a number of different agents that allow you to quickly iterate around innovation ideas. And
Okay.
so human initiated, you'll start with a concept, and the agents will help build and ask questions and change things within the concept. It's able to quickly render visuals of whatever concept you're creating, so you can see how that looks, and you're like, no, not that, maybe a little different. There's a compliance agent that kicks in and says, you know what, we're never going to be able to produce that or sell that or use that. There's a UX agent that comes in, and again, at early stage, just making sure that we're thinking about the right things early on. And it's very, very iterative, which I think is the most exciting thing, is that you can start, and instead of looking at research as almost a testing, a go no go kind of barrier, it becomes much more of this just fluid conversation where you're iterating, learning, redoing, going back, checking to see if you've covered that off, going back, and it makes for better outcomes, innovation, content wise, across the board.
That's so interesting, Nick. And so what that would also, I guess, presumably do is you're able to connect your agentic with your insights, with your product development, your marketing.
Yes.
Talk about like how that gets shared across the organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got everybody across the organization has access to AI in one way, shape, or form. And then depending on which group you're in, you have customized access to certain tools, because I think AI is fantastic, but we also can't have everybody jumping in on, and for instance, creating their own campaigns, for instance, in content, while love the energy, love the intent, we start to lose control of the beast right there. And so, only certain folks have access to some of our, video and image generation tools at the most advanced state. We still have access to some of those things because it's great, even just for creating a brief. If you can kind of visualize a little bit about what you're talking about, it becomes so much more compelling, whether you're briefing a design agency, whether you're briefing, a display creation thing. It eliminates rounds of iteration. Did you mean this? No, not quite that. You're able to kind of almost give a visual brief alongside your verbal brief that compresses that timeline, allows you to move much more quickly.
Yeah, really interesting. So I love what you said earlier about riding shotgun with the customer or the consumer.
Yep.
You obviously have so many different amazing brands and different categories, different targeting and audience. Can you talk a little bit about just sort of philosophically how you stay culturally relevant, and you talked about going through this organization, this sort of redeployment of where Newell's going, but what do you have? You've got cradling to camping, right? You've got all these amazing brands. Like, how do you guys think about sort of consumer centricity?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, it's a capability we are strengthening within the organization, because I think, for a while, Newell went a little bit more product centric in its approach.
Right.
And while there were some good products that came out of it, some of the brands, lost their way a little bit. They lost some of their relevance in the marketplace. They have phenomenal awareness, fantastic heritage, and these are some of the things that we're tapping into to bring them to life. But their relevance in today's world, their saliency is just not, where we want it to be. So we're looking at, how do you take some of those elements that honestly, you couldn't pay money for, that we have in these brands, but refresh them so that they are relevant and meaningful in today's context. And so you take a brand like Coleman, which has this phenomenal, heritage in the camping and cooler space and outdoor space overall. You tap into that, but you make it, relevant for today's audience. You add some technology and some of the innovations that you're bringing that, fit very well with the authenticity of it, but fit in today's lifestyle. So we just launched this thing called a Snap and Go cooler. It is fantastic, but it is a cooler that basically collapses down to maybe 3 inches tall, but has all the capabilities that you expect of a full-size cooler. So it allows you to pop it open when you need it, and use it camping, I don't know, even going to the grocery store, loading up on all your cold stuff, but then slim packs into something that will fit in your lifestyle because of tight spaces, smaller apartments, where folks are living these days. So it's that combination. Yeah.
Really interesting. Well, we're here at Cannes talking about creativity. We definitely got to talk about a couple of examples of Newell. So one of the ones I think I would love to talk to you about is Sharpie and Jeremiah Love.
Yep.
Right. So traditionally, when a company would do sponsorships, it would be sort of a sponsorship. But I think what was so fascinating for the NFL draft is you had Jeremiah Love, you had the comic book, you guys designed the suit, is that right?
Well, in partnership with him, yes.
Right. So talk to us about that process, and I'm really curious, what does that say about sponsorships? It seems like going much past the traditional way of
I mean, like sponsorships, they're still sponsorships,
Sure.
But leaving them just in that space leaves them at a much more of a transactional level. It's what you're talking about. We're looking at these sponsorships and like, how do we make sure that we are building a relationship between the partner and our brand, which is why getting the right partner at the beginning is critical, because we want to make sure that it's something they want to do, we want to do, and there's that fit there. But then once you're past that point, understanding, okay, what do they care about? Where's the intersection between one of their passion points and one of our passion points? And what made him a perfect partner for Sharpie? I mean, Sharpie has a creativity aspect of it. It's all about making your mark. Here's this, tremendous athlete about to, make his mark in the NFL. So there's lots of just kind of overlap between his story and what we want to stand for as a brand. And then he has this whole kind of comic book side of things, which is great. great because so many, artists sketch out a lot of what they do with Sharpie pens. So then you're just like,
Sure.
wow, how can you not take advantage of it? And for him, he's like, they get me, they understand me. They're taking something that is honestly, secondary to the moment because you're talking NFL draft, but you're shining a spotlight and saying there's so much more to this individual than just being a, core athlete.
Yeah.
And so he's excited and passionate about it, and just strengthens that tie between the brand and the partner.
Yeah, a really amazing case.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
Yep.
Nick, last question. What are you looking forward to this week, the rest of the week?
For me, we spend so much time with our heads down, just trying to, get the business back where it needs to be, that sometimes you just have no kind of barometer of where you are.
Okay.
So what I love about this is it gives us the time to step back and say, okay, are we ahead? Are we behind? Are we having the same conversations, different conversations than others are having? So, for first, it's a gut check of like how we're doing and where we stand. Second is, everybody's trying to figure out what's next. And so talking with each one of our partners in an environment like this, folks are a little bit more, are willing to have a little bit more elongated conversations.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you can get an idea of like, all right, what's Spotify thinking of that's different than Pinterest, that's different than Walmart, that's different than Amazon, and what are the themes that are cohesive and what are the themes that are completely disparate, and try to understand where things are going and where we might want to, lean in and partner.
Amazing. Well, enjoy the rest of the week.
We will. Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Really appreciate it. Nick Hammitt, the CMO of Newell Brands.